And just like that, we're back, baby. Guys, football's back. Those who weren't following along, I did go live once. I did some updates via shorts. I was so stoked. This was just like when you're in high school playing and you get the jitters and you get excitement. I feel finally for the first time this team is a team that's going to put a product on the field that we can legitimately go somewhere with. So this is super exciting for me. I know you guys are all excited. That's why you're tuning in right now. That's why we're here. Let me jump into what is being dubbed the Collin Johnson game, but I'm going to call it right now the Brett Rypien to Collin Johnson game. Bears won 21-17 in a shortened game, in a terminated game is what they're calling it, terminated, which is kind of funny. Shortened game, and right when poor Austin Reed, of everyone, he got one series that was very shortened with a penalty, and he did fine in that series. He only got one series, and then the game ends on a weather delay. He was going to play the last period and basically a half, a little bit more than a half, or less than a half, but a period and a half. Austin Reed was going to get, but poor guy doesn't even get a chance to do that now. We had these as the 7 players. Had these 7 players as the ones to watch for this game. Noah Sewell didn't even get a play. Tory Taylor didn't even get a play. Velus Jones didn't even get a play. So a little bit different. I think it kind of went different than what everybody thought was going to happen. The big highlight of it was the kickoff rule and how that changed. And you see on Twitter, everyone seems to be kind of underwhelmed by it. I actually thought it was fun. I was intrigued. I was in there. It's preseason, and on top of that, it's the Hall of Fame game. So you're not going to see right off the bat, 99-yard return touchdowns. People are getting used to it. It's fun to see the concept of it. It's fun to see how it played out. And I was surprised John Jackson was the one back there. He didn't start out. Tyler Scott started out returning, and then John Jackson was there, and he returned too, and he had a decent return. One of them was 31 yards. So I was surprised by that. Not the quickest guy. If you remember when we looked at his RAS score, he ran like a 4.740. But you're going to see that with this new kickoff rule. I think you're going to see a lot of running backs that end up getting that role because it's going to be more of a tank style trying to run people over. It's not going to be your most elusive guys. But Velus Jones is both big and quick, and that's why I think he's absolutely a lock. That's why they didn't play him tonight. Matt Eberflus, when asked about that, if he has competition, he says it's wide open. That's just a generic political answer at this point. You're not going to tip your hand to anybody. You're not going to tell other teams, yeah, get ready for Velus Jones week 1. It's very much just the political answer. Velus Jones is locked in as the kick returner for this team. Late at night. Sorry, I wanted to get this out earlier. The game ended early, and then I had little girls to take care of. But I'm going to give you guys a full recap of everything, my thoughts on everything. Let's get back into actually this team. This is how everything went. Let me remove myself from the screen for just a minute. So this is the snap count by everyone played. So the highlighted ones are the ones I said before the games that I wanted to keep an eye on. Tyler Scott only played 7 snaps. These are offensive snaps, so this doesn't include the special teams. Austin Booker played 24. Reddy Stewart played 10. Jamari Chroma played 9. Noah Sewell, Tory Taylor, Velus Jones didn't get to play. I was really excited to see Noah Sewell in that linebacker role, but the Bears feel he's too valuable. I agree. He is too valuable, but I wanted to see him play a little bit more. So who I actually think deserve to be highlighted for this game, obviously Collin Johnson, Brett Rypien 1 and 2. Both I'll show the box score here in a second, but both of them went off. Carl Jones, who I'm surprised lined up at edge. It was a little surprising. He's a small edge, 220, 230 pounds. So very, very much like the Terrell Lewis last year, a smaller defensive end. And as we know, didn't get to see Jacob Martin in this game either, which we weren't expecting. He's a vet. He's a seasoned vet, and he's pretty much locked in as the defensive end 3. But I was kind of on the edge there. Are we going to get to see him? Are we not? Because they said the starters weren't playing. Well, he didn't play either. I'm going to put myself up while I talk. You guys saw the ones that were under there. If you didn't, they're not the ones I'm highlighting anyways. So those are the guys that I'm highlighting right now for this one, for the snap count. Byron Cowart got 24 snaps. I meant to put that on Austin Booker. I don't know why it's on. My bad. Take that as Austin Booker. It's supposed to be Austin Booker, not Byron Cowart. I wasn't highlighting Byron Cowart. He had a fine game. Wasn't anything special. They gave him a sack. Let's get to that. They gave him a sack. He didn't have a sack, so I crossed that out. We're going to show that in a second. I put 1 over Austin Booker. Austin Booker had that sack. The guys on offense, so those were the high snap count guys, but here's the ones who excelled. Look at Brett Rypien, 148.9 rating, 11 for 15, 11.1 average is huge. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson both carried the ball really well. Demetric Felton, he shows a high average, but really he was not against the third round, fourth round practice squad guys. But I mean, he did fine. I just don't think he's going to stick around on the team. Collin Johnson, Tommy Sweeney, Brendan Bates all had good games, in my opinion. All the tight ends did really well. Even Steven Carlson did fine. But Tommy Sweeney and Brendan Bates really stood out. It showed Shane Waldron's offense with those tight ends. They really played a role, and I really like these. We've got depth at tight end, and we'll see how they play the rest of the offseason, the rest of the preseason. But Tommy Sweeney and Brendan Bates both played good games. Even if it's only 2 receptions, 3 receptions, they played well. But the big storyline is Collin Johnson. Now, we highlighted him at the end of last year on some of the videos just because, a team trying to figure players out. We didn't have an X receiver. We talked about that all offseason. I talked about how we needed to get a high point X receiver. Well, Collin Johnson's no scrub. He actually played really, really well. Let's go over. This is Twitter. I'm going to switch screens here, and let's go over to actually Collin Johnson's PFF first. Let's do that one first. So here's Collin Johnson's PFF, 6'6", 220 pounds. Drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars in the 5th round of 2020, 165th selection overall. He ended up getting cut by them. I don't know why. He played in we'll have to go look at it. I had it on my head, but he played in most of the games, you see, till the end of the year. And then he got cut. I don't know what their major beef with him on that was, but he had good grades. You see the grading out on it. And the biggest things I like to look at, as you guys know, look right over here. His drop rate, 5.3, not bad for a rookie. Contested catch rate, 50, 60, no opportunities last year for catch rates or contested catch rate. So those are all good to me. His NFL passer rating when targeted, though, that was low. This is with the Giants. 98.2 is not bad. Last year with us, 112.5, but in a limited sample, it was only 1 reception. So with the Giants there. And then he ended up getting injured. He tore his Achilles, is that what ended up happening. So the same injury that you see several players going through right now, actually. But he ended up tearing his Achilles. So he was out the entire 2022 season. That was in the preseason. So he ended up being waived. The Bears picked him up before last season. He was on the practice squad most of the year, and then we brought him up the last 3 games. So if we go to, get rid of that, go to 2023, you see we brought him up for the last 3 games, and that's really all he played. But he had the 1 reception, and it looked really good in that game. No drops, really played well. He was in the slot quite a bit, out wide mostly, but I was impressed with him last year, and I, said we need that 6'6" guy. So I'd love to see him work out, but he's been around the league a while. We're going to bring rookies in, and then we ended up getting Keenan Allen, and he kind of went by the wayside for me. Someone that I honestly just kind of forgot about, or not necessarily forgot about, but kind of just attributed to the wind that he wasn't going to make the roster because of that. So he was out of sight, out of mind for me, and I think a lot of people were the same way. We didn't highlight him, and the thing about Collin Johnson that was neat was you listen to his after-game press conference. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. Very humble. He and Brett Rypien both sounded the same thing. They're here to fight. They're here to prove something. And I like the mentality of this year's roster. But when Brett Rypien was asked, are you in competition for quarterback 2? That's not how I see it. I'm just going to put my best foot forward every day. They both this whole team sounds professional, mature, grounded, ready to battle, and it's showing, and I really, really like that. Even Caleb Williams, when he was doing his middle of the game interview, sounded very grounded. Just everyone on this team sounds grounded, ready to go to work, ready to prepare, ready to put it in, and it's going to be exciting to see how everything works out with this team. It's going to be really, really fun. Let me remove that one, and let me go back to Twitter. I want to show you guys this from Twitter. This is the stuff from the game. So here's Tyson Bagent before the game, secret Bagent man in the building, repping our Hall of Famers, which I love. This is cool. So Roma Dunze showed up with Obviously Devin Hester's jersey, and then you got Julius Pepper's jersey, and then you got Mongo's jersey. So that was cool to see the players repping them. And they all went to Canton beforehand, and they went and saw the Hall of Fame. It was a lot of fun. There's a picture of Cole Kmet that I really, really enjoyed. I said he looked like he was focused and intellectually just thinking. The picture just looked like, man, how do I cement myself in immortality? So here's Caleb and Tyson Bagent before the game. All right, guys, I had to trim out part of the video, so I'm going to interject here and explain what I trimmed out just barely. YouTube doesn't like me showing highlights from the games. I understand it. I feel like I'm adding enough context to it to be able to justify why it should be allowed, but they don't agree with me, and they do their quick checks, and you could dispute it, but it takes days to do that, and I want to get this out this morning. It's it's actually 2:30 a.m. Pacific time, so I'm just going to explain real quick. What I did in this portion was I went over several of the plays. I showed highlights several of the plays, mostly of Collin Johnson and his route running ability. He had a very quick stutter step start and stop on a couple of his different routes. And then on the high point on the sidelines, there were two of them. One of them went as an incomplete pass. Really close, really close play. He's really good on those contested catches. He just didn't quite secure it. That happens with the best of them. But his high point, Brett Rypien talked about how he just put it up there for him, and they only had one play, period, one in practice where they got together and they connected on a pass. And Brett Rypien, just with his experience, it's nice. He talked about how he's the vet now, which is interesting to him. I mean, he just played with Russell Wilson. He played with Matthew Stafford. He kind of played with Aaron Rodgers. Not really. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was injured, but he's in the same film room. So now he's the vet with all these other guys. So that's a really interesting take for him to be able to be that vet now. But he knew exactly where to put it with Collin's size, playing against a defensive back that's an average size, 6 foot. Put it right on his back shoulder, put it right where he can get it, and he just placed it perfectly. And then on the other one, led him perfectly into the corner of the end zone. So really fun there. And then the other thing I broke down in this portion was the tight ends. We really have solidified tight end depth. I think Sweeney and Bates both showed that in this game, that Shane Waldron, more than anything, his offense and the way that he works with tight ends, he did a really good job with these guys in this game. And I'm really excited to see the rest of preseason how the tight ends play. Because the tight ends could play a really pivotal role, and even taking undrafted free agent tight ends and making them look as good as he did in this offense today, that was pretty special. So both tight ends were able to run the seams, run the routes, play it really well. Both blocked fairly decently. Most of the game they blocked fairly decently. And then the routes they ran seemed pretty crisp. So I'm really excited more than anything when I broke down the film right here. And you see I'm reversing and taking back and going back and forth. I'm really excited to see how Shane Waldron runs his 13 personnel, 12 personnel, 11 personnel. Runs it with 3 wide receivers on there, 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, multiple running backs. Maybe even some sets with 3 tight ends. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Shane Waldron runs this offense. So in this portion, there's another portion I have to trim out. I'm going to get to that later in the video. That's where I break down Austin Booker's semi-sack. So I'll get into that later, how it wasn't really a sack. So you got deja vu here. You got multiple things. I'm going to get back to the video here. But anyway, sorry I had to trim that out. If you want to go look at the highlights, just go check them out. Just go Twitter, YouTube. You can see the entire highlights of the game. But watch the route running on the tight ends and on Collin Johnson. Collin Johnson was next level. And Brett Rypien and him connecting, that was a lot of fun to watch. So we'll get back to the video, and then I'll cut out a section here at the end with Austin Booker. Let's look at the other guys that I wanted to highlight real quick. I thought Ja'Tyre Carter. Now PFF is going to come out today when you guys see this. It's tonight for me. I'm in the middle of the night, like 1 a.m. my time. They're going to come out with their stats at like noon. So I'm going to do something with that and at least post something with that. But I think Ja'Tyre Carter, in my opinion, from what I watched, Ja'Tyre Carter had actually a pretty good game. Bill Murray had a good game, and Matt Pryor had a good game on the line. The beginning of the game was a little bit suspect for the line. I wasn't real impressed with the offensive line in the beginning of the game. Wasn't impressed with the defensive line at the beginning of the game. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to show Austin Booker's sack in just a minute. But those 3 guys kind of stood out. And then both of our running backs, Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson, I thought had a pretty good game. But let's go look at now. I'm going to show kind of my thoughts on the roster where we are now. We'll get back to this. This is what's coming up. But This is how I kind of changed things a little bit. I told you guys this is going to be changing all the way through the offseason as we go through the preseason games with how I think things will change. Now, before I had Steven Carlson there as a fourth tight end, that kind of came to fruition tonight, the whole fourth tight end thing, because I changed my mind and said, okay, I think we might have a fourth, and we might carry a fourth tight end. Well, now you can see I changed and I brought him out. Now I really think there's going to be a tight end competition. I think we'll keep 4 tight ends, but Brennan Bates and Tommy Sweeney both played really, really well today. So I was happy with both of them. Look at the far left. I really do think there is a quarterback competition now between Brett Rypien and Tyson Bagent. You guys know on here, I've never been super high on Tyson Bagent. I think it's a fun storyline. I think it's cool. But as I highlighted last year, the 4 games he played in, should have won at least 3 of those, and he didn't play very well in those games. A lot of people think he did. In fact, a lot of people are highlighting that throw to Komet, saying that it's a great throw. That wasn't it. That was all Komet. I mean, he just kind of hucked that up. He was under pressure, and Komet did the work to get that one down. But I mean, you can nitpick anything like that, though, if you really want to. But Tyson Bagent didn't play particularly well in multiple facets. But I think it's fun to see him develop. I think it's fun to see his workout routine in the offseason, to see his personality and his character. I want to see him stick around. I want to see him develop and grow. I said earlier I'd love to see him develop so we could trade him as trade bait for a second rounder. Nothing against him. Just like I don't have anything against Brett Rypien. I loved seeing tonight. I loved seeing him develop. It was a lot of fun to watch that. And it makes you wonder if that experience in the league is something that Tyson Bagent can get 4 or 5 years down the line. But right now, Brett Rypien's our guy that we brought in. Looked like a really quality backup. So if we're starting today, he clearly knows Shane Waldron's offense. He knows this West Coast style. He knows exactly Shane Waldron's offense. I think he's absolutely who you ride with quarterback 2 coming in today, who you'd feel more confident taking over if Caleb got hurt going into the game. I 100% Brett Rypien from what he showed today. I absolutely. Now look at wide receiver 6 down below Rome Odunze. That was Dante Pettis before today. I've taken Dante Pettis out. That muff punt was bad. It was bad. It was really bad. The other person that could have been in there was DeAndre Carter. This is why I say I think we might keep 7 wide receivers. Tyler Scott, Velus Jones, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Collin Johnson now all seem very important to this team. But on return duty, now Collin Johnson in his press conference was really fun to listen to. He had the first tackle on special teams. He showed his ability. Hightower wanted to take him out, and he said, no, let me stay in on special teams. I want to be able to contribute. I want to show my value to this team. And he did. The very first play of the game, he was the one who got the tackle on special teams. So I think he has a lot of value. I think Collin Johnson's very much solidifying himself. I think Travis Homer, Ian Wheeler, Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson. Now, a lot of people are saying, why were Roshan Johnson and Khalil Herbert both playing as running back 2 and 3? Why are they both in the game? Well, one, Roshan played first, kind of cemented as the backup number 2 running back. Khalil 3, but they both played really well. I don't have anything against either of them. In fact, I really like both of them. I really want us to run all the season with Swift, Roshan, and Khalil. But Ian Wheeler and Travis Homer both had light injuries. They weren't going to play tonight. So Felton was kind of the go-to as the backup to end the game. I don't think he's going to stick around at all, but I really think this is kind of how we line up on this for the season. So far, right now, it's going to change as we go through the offseason. That's what the offseason is for. So nothing really changed for me on anything else. The offensive line, as I said, I think Bill Murray had a good game. Jatari Carter, who I slotted in here last time for Free Talk Tuesday, as you guys saw. Kieran Amagaji still hurt. Matt Pryor was in there at guard. Not a whole lot to change there. Not a whole lot to change here. Let's get to Austin Booker's sack, because that's one big thing. Now, Zach Pickens did not have a good game. I was not impressed at all. I've said on here, I think he's, a backup for 3 years, then he's out of the league. I'm not trying to be rude. I didn't see anything impress me last year. His run defense was okay. No burst, no pressure. So we'll see what happens. All these guys have time to develop. It's not like they're on year 5 and they're out of here. This is year 2 for Zach Pickens. So we'll see what happens. Jamari Cromont did play opposite of Austin Booker for 9 snaps is what it was. Nothing super impressive out of Jamari Cromont. But as I said earlier in the game, in that time, these rookies especially, they're just getting a feel for the NFL game. Like, this is their first time in there. I'm not too hard on them. What you are impressed with is when you get someone like Austin Booker, who had the game that he did. Let's get up here and hit the search. Let's zoom back out for a second. Come on. Austin Booker. Being slow. I've got too many tabs open and I'm recording right now. So sorry, guys. All right, segment number 2 that we had to trim out. I'm going to get here into an Austin Booker, into multiple plays. I'm going to go over them real quick here because I'm not showing them, so it's not quite as entertaining. But I thought Austin Booker had the sack in the game, but he didn't. So when I break it down, while I'm breaking it down for you guys, sorry, just got something in my eye. While I'm breaking it down for you, I actually see that Byron Cowart did get credit. So obviously the NFL knows what they're doing and their statisticians know what they're doing. He reaches around and slaps the ball out of his hand, which is considered the sack at that point because it's a strip sack. And then Austin Booker tackles the quarterback. So Austin Booker does the flashy work where he takes him down. But in the middle of all that, Byron Cowart reaches around and slaps the ball. So they both did real well. So I go over in there how that's actually a really good thing to see Byron Cowart do that because maybe Byron Cowart will be and end up being our 4th defensive interior. That's just a wait and see thing. We'll have to see how the rest of the preseason goes. It would be nice to see an established guy like that take some steps forward, do an Andrew Billings type of thing, and start to establish himself more and more the longer he's in the league. We'll just have to wait and see. The other thing I show is Austin Booker. You go look at the highlights. They're fun. His very first play of the game, his very first pass rush, he really sets the tackle back on his heels, almost knocks him onto his butt. So Austin Booker with that power, and he puts his hands up at the last second. He really uses late hands and pushes him back. It's really impressive, especially for a rookie and the youngest guy on this team. Austin Booker is the youngest player on this team, period. So for him to do that, there's a lot of future ahead for Austin Booker. So that's really neat to watch. And then the sack, I mean, there's several plays where he got pressure in there. He did a really good job. I was really impressed with the work he did. I think I mentioned in there that Jamari Cromwell played some of the few snaps. That could be, I mean, that's too much to try to analyze on a Hall of Fame game because the players who they don't want to get injured, they're not playing a lot, but also Cromwell has been playing with the second and third stringers. So is this really... I don't know. Maybe they just want to see a lot out of Austin Booker, and it isn't necessarily low reps means better player. It's because obviously that's not the case. Austin Booker has been praised a lot. You can't think he's 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th defensive end. Austin Booker's clearly 3 or 4. So I think they really want to see what they have in the defensive end position. And then the other part of that was Carl Jones playing at defensive end. That was an interesting take for me as well. I'm going to slide this up here because obviously you can see me in the background. In fact, I just need to pause that. We'll get into the rest of that video. We'll play it. We got more Matrix stuff back in the back of the picture. So anyways, go watch the highlights if you want of Austin Booker. I was very impressed with him from this game. I really, really, really enjoyed watching him. I'm looking forward to watching him in the future games as well, the rest of the preseason. I think he's going to develop into, literally, he could become Max Crosby. We made a video about that, and I really think he has the potential with everything he's flashing as he gets bigger. And he's the youngest guy on the team. He's still going to develop and get bigger. His size, he's gonna get more muscles. He's going to grow into his adult body, and then as the more experience he gets, the more NFL reps he gets. Just like Matt Eberflus talked about in the press conference, right now it's just about reps, doing the basics. This is not about anything flashy. It's just doing the basics, getting the reps. And there's truth to that. So these young guys, it's really fun to watch them, and I'm looking forward to that in the future games as well. So we'll get right back to the video where we cut off. Sorry I couldn't show the highlights, but go check them out. You can just YouTube the game. You can YouTube the highlights. It's worth watching. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure most of you watched the game. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this game. So with that, get back into it. Either way, I was impressed with Booker. He was right on that. He tackled him afterwards. It was good. So with that, that's all I've got for you guys. Good game. A lot of fun to be able to watch the. Let me close this one out. There we go. It's in my ears. A lot of fun to watch the Bears. A lot of fun to have football back. I'm so stoked. I'm going to do a lot of things this season. We'll do a lot of analysis. We'll do a lot of analysis. Do a lot of breaking down of the games as we go. This is trying to get this out right after the game. Where is the box score? There's the box score for you. So sorry, Byron Cowart. I'll fix that. You did deserve your sack there. You're the one with the strip sack. Austin Booker was right in on it. I was impressed, even though the stat score doesn't look super high and gaudy. I was impressed with him. I was impressed that John Jackson was returning those, and Carl Jones lining up at defensive end. It kind of surprised me. And I didn't see during the game, but seeing the box score, I want to see the breakdown from PFF tomorrow, their individual grades of the game. But 8 total tackles, I didn't see that. And on that, he had, how many plays was he on? 28. So not much more than Austin Booker. So fun to see that stuff. Fun to see this team. I was really kind of discouraged in the beginning because I thought the offensive line and the defensive line were both not really showing up. Took a series or two, young team, took them getting into the flow, and I really thought they did well. And the same thing with the secondary. People were criticizing the secondary, and right after that, they almost had a pick, and they were really locking down things after that. So team played really well. I was really happy with it. Box score doesn't mean everything. In fact, the final score doesn't mean it doesn't matter that we won. It doesn't matter that we won right there at the bottom, 17-21. Doesn't matter. Shortened game. The Collin Johnson game, a lot of fun. I really think he's on pace to make the roster. How much he'll play, I don't know. He'll be on special teams because he showed today he can get in there on those kickoffs and make the tackles. He'll get in occasionally. It was 6'6", and if he continues to build rapport with Brett Rypien and Caleb Williams, that 6'6" size, that's valuable. So a lot of fun with that. Thanks for tuning in. We're back, baby. Next thing that's up. Oh, I said I would go to this. Sorry, I keep saying we're leaving. I'm turning into Shorty. Next thing that's up, you see the Hall of Fame game is over. Next thing up, Hard Knocks. Hard Knocks next Tuesday, August 6th. Then we have the preseason game at Buffalo, August 10th, and then Hard Knocks, and then joint practice with the Bengals and the Bengals game. We're into it now. This is fun. We're going to start seeing things shake out with the roster, seeing players get their edge, get positioning over other players. Maybe Brett Rypien ends up being quarterback 2. Maybe Collin Johnson works his way all the way up to wide receiver 4. Who knows? That's the fun of the offseason. That's the fun of the preseason, seeing these guys duke it out, fight for their dreams, and fight to make this happen. That's a lot of fun for me to watch. So I know you guys enjoy it too. Claws up, bear down, and da bears.